The morning sun filtered through the thin curtains of the small apartment in South Atlanta, casting long shadows across the worn wooden floor. 10-year-old Maya Johnson sat cross-legged on her bed, carefully arranging her most prized possessions on the faded Lakers bedspread her grandmother had bought her for Christmas 2 years ago. Her collection wasn't much by most standards. A few basketball cards she'd traded lunch money for, a poster of Shaquille O'Neal dunking that she'd torn from an old magazine at the library, and a deflated basketball her older brother Marcus had found behind the community center. But to Maya, these items represented something far more valuable than their monetary worth. They were symbols of hope, dreams, and the unwavering belief that anything was possible. "Maya, baby, you need to eat something before school," her mother Denise called from the kitchen. The smell of instant oatmeal mixed with the lingering aroma of coffee that had been reheated 3 times since dawn. Maya carefully placed her basketball cards back in their shoebox hiding place under her bed. At 10 years old, she had already learned the importance of protecting the things that mattered most. Living in their neighborhood meant that not everyone understood the value of dreams, and some people took pleasure in crushing them. As she walked to the kitchen, Maya's eyes caught sight of the newspaper clipping taped to her bedroom door, an article about Shaquille O'Neal visiting Children's Health Care of Atlanta next week. She had read it so many times that she could recite it word for word. The article mentioned that Shaq would be making surprise visits throughout the hospital, but it didn't specify exact times or locations. "Mama," Maya said, sliding into the plastic chair at their small dining table, "can we talk about next Tuesday again?" Denise Johnson paused in her morning routine, her tired eyes meeting her daughter's hopeful gaze. At 32, Denise carried the weight of raising 2 children alone while working double shifts as a certified nursing assistant at the same hospital Shaq would be visiting. The irony wasn't lost on her. She spent her days caring for sick children, yet she struggled to provide her own daughter with the simple joy of meeting her hero. "Maya, sweetheart, I already explained this," Denise said gently, sitting down across from her daughter. "I'll be working that day, and I can't just bring you to the hospital. It's not a playground, baby. These are sick children who need medical care." Maya's shoulders sagged slightly, but her eyes remained determined. "But Mama, what if this is my only chance? What if he never comes back to Atlanta? What if you focus on getting to school on time instead of worrying about things we can't control?" Marcus interrupted, grabbing a banana from the counter. At 15, Marcus had inherited their father's height and their mother's practical nature, though he tried to hide his own soft spot for his little sister's dreams. Maya shot her brother a look that could have melted steel. "You don't understand, Marcus. This isn't just about meeting a famous person. Shaq represents something bigger." "Oh, really?" Marcus said, raising an eyebrow. "And what's that, little philosopher?" Maya stood up, her small frame seeming to grow taller with conviction. "He shows that people like us can make it. He came from nothing and became everything. He didn't let where he started determine where he finished." The kitchen fell silent except for the humming of their old refrigerator. Denise felt her heart swell with pride and break a little at the same time. Her daughter's wisdom and hope in the face of their circumstances never ceased to amaze her, but it also reminded her of all the dreams she'd had to set aside to keep their family afloat. Marcus softened, recognizing the depth of his sister's feelings. "Look, Maya, I get it, but sometimes things don't work out the way we want them to. That doesn't mean we stop dreaming, but we have to be realistic too." Maya picked up her spoon and stirred her oatmeal thoughtfully. "Being realistic doesn't mean giving up before you even try, and I haven't tried everything yet." As Maya walked to school that morning, her mind was already formulating a plan. She had saved $11.37 from doing small chores around the neighborhood, money she had been saving for a new basketball. But meeting Shaquille O'Neal was worth more than any basketball she could ever own. The autumn air in Atlanta carried the scent of changing leaves and the promise of possibility. Maya pulled her thin jacket tighter around her shoulders and quickened her pace. She had exactly 6 days to figure out how to make her dream come true. At Rosa Parks Elementary School, Maya's teacher, Mrs. Rodriguez, noticed the girls' distracted demeanor during their morning math lesson. Maya was typically one of her most attentive students, but today she seemed to be staring out the window, lost in thought. "Maya, can you tell us what 7 times 8 equals?" Mrs. Rodriguez asked gently. Maya snapped back to attention. 56, Mrs. Rodriguez. Sorry, I was just thinking about something important." During lunch, Maya sat with her best friend Jasmine, picking at her peanut butter sandwich while outlining her developing plan. "So let me get this straight," Jasmine said, unwrapping her own lunch. "You want to skip school, take the bus downtown to the hospital, and just hope you run into Shaquille O'Neal?" "It's not just hoping," Maya corrected. "It's having faith. There's a difference." Jasmine shook her head. "Girl, you're going to get in so much trouble. What if your mama finds out? What if you get lost? What if I don't try and spend the rest of my life wondering, what if?" Maya interrupted. "Jazz, some opportunities only come once. This might be mine." That evening, Maya lay in bed listening to the sounds of her neighborhood settling into night. Police sirens wailed in the distance, mixed with the bass from someone's car stereo and the occasional shout from the street below. But instead of the usual anxiety these sounds brought, Maya felt a strange sense of calm. She reached under her bed and pulled out her shoebox of treasures, holding up the magazine photo of Shaquille O'Neal in the dim light filtering through her window. In the picture, he was smiling broadly, his massive frame somehow managing to look gentle and approachable despite his intimidating size. "I'm going to meet you," she whispered to the photograph. "I don't know how yet, but I'm going to make it happen." From the next room, she could hear her mother on the phone with her supervisor at the hospital, discussing schedule changes and overtime opportunities. Maya knew her mother worked harder than anyone should have to, just to keep their small family together. Meeting Shaq wouldn't change their circumstances, but maybe it would prove that dreams were still possible, even in their world. As Maya drifted off to sleep, her plan began to take shape. She would need to be smart, brave, and more determined than she'd ever been in her 10 years of life. But she had something that couldn't be bought or taught. She had hope, and sometimes hope was the most powerful force in the world. The next morning would begin her countdown to destiny, though she had no idea just how dramatically her life was about to change. Tuesday morning arrived with an unseasonable chill that seemed to cut through Atlanta's typical autumn warmth. Maya had barely slept, her mind racing through every detail of the plan she'd spent the last 6 days perfecting. She lay in bed listening to her mother's morning routine, the shower running, coffee brewing, the familiar sounds of someone preparing for another long day of caring for others. Maya had made her decision. Today was the day she would take control of her own destiny. She waited until she heard her mother's car pull out of the driveway before quietly getting out of bed. Marcus had already left for his early morning basketball practice, which meant Maya had the apartment to herself for the next hour. It was the perfect window of opportunity. Moving with the careful precision of someone who had rehearsed every step, Maya gathered her supplies. She packed her small backpack with the $11.37 she'd saved, a water bottle, her bus route map that she'd borrowed from the community center, and the hospital's address written on a piece of paper in her careful handwriting. Most importantly, she tucked the magazine photo of Shaquille O'Neal into her jacket pocket, right over her heart. Maya left a note for her mother on the kitchen table, though she knew it wouldn't be discovered until evening. "Mama, I went to chase my dream. Don't worry about me. I'll be careful and I'll be home tonight. Love, your Maya." The walk, too. The bus stop felt longer than usual, each step carrying the weight of her decision. Maya had never disobeyed her mother in such a dramatic way, and the guilt sat heavy in her stomach alongside the excitement and nervousness. But she pushed through the doubt, reminding herself of what this opportunity meant. At the bus stop, Maya stood among the early morning commuters, hospital workers heading to their shifts, office employees clutching coffee cups, and students making their way to various schools around the city. She tried to blend in, to look like she belonged, though her small stature and school backpack made her stand out among the adults. When the Route 42 bus arrived, Maya climbed the steps with more confidence than she felt. She had practiced this moment in her mind dozens of times, But the reality felt both more exciting and more terrifying than she had imagined. "Where to, sweetheart?" the bus driver, an older black woman with kind eyes, asked as Maya fumbled for her change. "Children's Health Care of Atlanta, please," Maya said, her voice steadier than she expected. The bus driver studied Maya for a moment, and Maya held her breath, certain she was about to be questioned about why a 10-year-old was traveling alone to a hospital. Instead, the woman's expression softened. "That'll be $2, honey. You visiting someone special?" Maya nodded, not trusting herself to explain without revealing too much. She dropped her coins into the fare box and found a seat near the front, watching the familiar streets of her neighborhood give way to the bustling downtown area. As the bus wound through Atlanta's morning traffic, Maya rehearsed her plan once more. She knew from her research that Shaquille O'Neal's visit wasn't scheduled to begin until late afternoon, but she also knew that sometimes celebrities arrived early or stayed late. Her strategy was simple: find a good spot near the main entrance and wait. She had packed snacks and water, and she was prepared to wait as long as necessary. Maya understood that her plan might not work. Shaq might enter through a private entrance. He might be surrounded by too much security, or he might not come at all. But she also understood that not trying guaranteed failure, while trying at least gave her a chance. The hospital came into view sooner than Maya expected, its modern glass and steel structure rising from the urban landscape like a beacon of hope. Children's Health Care of Atlanta was one of the premier pediatric hospitals in the Southeast, and Maya could see why her mother was proud to work there. As Maya stepped off the bus, she was struck by the sheer size of the hospital complex. It was much larger than she had imagined, with multiple buildings, several entrances, and a constant flow of people coming and going. For the first time since leaving home, Maya felt a flutter of doubt about her plan. But then she remembered the words she had whispered to Shaq's photograph the night before. "I'm going to meet you." She pulled her thin jacket tighter around her shoulders and began walking toward the main entrance. The hospital's lobby was a bustling hub of activity. Families sat in comfortable seating areas, some reading magazines while waiting, others engaged in quiet conversations. Medical staff in colorful scrubs moved with purposeful efficiency, and volunteers in distinctive blue vests offered directions and assistance to visitors. Maya found a seat in the lobby with a clear view of the main entrance. She pulled out her water bottle and took a small sip, settling in for what she knew might be a very long wait. Around her, life in the hospital continued its steady rhythm. Parents anxiously checking their phones, children in wheelchairs being pushed by nurses, and the constant soft chiming of elevator arrivals. As the morning progressed into afternoon, Maya watched dozens of people come and go. She saw hospital administrators in business suits, medical equipment being wheeled through the corridors, and families carrying balloons and stuffed animals for young patients. Each time the automatic doors slid open, Maya's heart would skip a beat, hoping to see the unmistakable figure of her hero. Around lunchtime, a security guard named Officer Williams noticed the young girl who had been sitting in the same spot for hours. He was an older black man with graying temples and a gentle demeanor that immediately put nervous families at ease. "Hey there, young lady," he said, approaching Maya with a friendly smile. "I've seen you sitting here for a while. Are you waiting for someone?" Maya's heart raced. This was the moment she had been dreading, being discovered and possibly sent away before Shaq arrived. But something in Officer Williams' kind eyes made her decide to tell the truth, or at least part of it. "Yes, sir. I'm waiting to see someone very special. Someone who means a lot to me." Officer Williams nodded understandingly. "I see. And where are your parents, sweetheart?" Maya had prepared for this question. "My mama works here. She's a nursing assistant. She said I could wait here for a little while." It wasn't exactly a lie. Her mother did work there, though she certainly hadn't given Maya permission to skip school and camp out in the lobby. Officer Williams seemed satisfied with the explanation, though Maya could tell he was still keeping an eye on her. As the afternoon wore on, Maya began to notice an increase in activity around the hospital. Additional security personnel appeared, and she overheard staff members talking about the special visitor and making sure everything is ready. Her heart began to race with anticipation. At around 4:30 p.m., Maya noticed a change in the atmosphere. Several hospital administrators had gathered near the main entrance, and there seemed to be an air of excitement among the staff. Maya gripped the magazine photo in her pocket and sat up straighter in her chair. Then, through the glass doors, she saw them. A small convoy of black SUVs pulling up to the entrance. Maya's breath caught in her throat as she realized that her dream was about to become reality. After waiting for nearly 8 hours, after planning for 6 days, after hoping for what felt like her entire life, Shaquille O'Neal was finally here. But as Maya watched the vehicles arrive, she also realized that her real challenge was just beginning. Getting this close had been the easy part. Now she had to figure out how to actually meet her hero, and she was running out of time. Maya's heart pounded so hard she was certain everyone in the hospital lobby could hear it. Through the glass doors, she watched as several people emerged from the black SUVs, but she couldn't yet see Shaquille O'Neal. Security personnel quickly formed a perimeter, and hospital administrators stepped forward to greet the arriving group. Then, emerging from the middle vehicle like a gentle giant, came the man himself. Even from a distance, Shaquille O'Neal's presence was unmistakable. Standing over 7 feet tall with shoulders that seemed to span the width of the doorway, he moved with the same grace Maya had watched on countless basketball highlights. But what struck her most was his smile. Genuine, warm, and exactly like the one in her treasured magazine photo. Maya stood up from her chair, her legs suddenly feeling unsteady. After 8 hours of waiting, after a lifetime of dreaming, the moment she had imagined was finally here. But as she watched Shaq enter the hospital surrounded by his entourage, the reality of her situation hit her with full force. The security was tighter than she had anticipated. Hospital administrators, personal bodyguards, and what appeared to be media personnel formed a moving wall around Shaquille O'Neal as he made his way through the lobby. Maya realized that simply walking up to him wasn't going to be possible, at least not in the traditional sense. Officer Williams, who had been watching Maya throughout the day, noticed the young girl's reaction to the arrival. He saw the way her eyes lit up, the way she unconsciously reached for something in her jacket pocket, and the mixture of excitement and desperation on her face. In that moment he understood exactly why this child had been sitting in the hospital lobby all day. As Shaq and his group moved toward the elevators that would take them to the pediatric wards, Maya made a decision that surprised even herself. Instead of trying to push through the crowd or call out from across the lobby, she simply began walking in the same direction, maintaining a respectful distance but staying within sight of her hero. Maya followed the group to the elevator bank, where they waited for the car that would take them to the children's floors. She positioned herself near a pillar about 20 feet away, close enough to see Shaquille O'Neal clearly, but far enough away to avoid drawing attention from security. It was then that something magical happened, something that would later convince Maya that some dreams are meant to come true. As Shaq waited for the elevator, chatting quietly with the hospital administrators about the children he would be visiting, his eyes casually scanned the lobby. His gaze swept past the gift shop, the information desk, the seating areas, and then it stopped. His eyes locked with Maya's across the space between them. For a moment that felt like an eternity. The basketball legend and the 10-year-old girl simply looked at each other. Maya saw something in his expression change. A recognition, not of who she was, but of what she represented. He saw the hope in her eyes, the careful way she was dressed in what were obviously her best clothes, and the magazine photo she was now clutching in her hand. Shaq whispered something to one of the hospital administrators, who glanced in Maya's direction and nodded. Then, to the surprise of his entire entourage, Shaquille O'Neal stepped away from the group and began walking directly toward Maya. Maya couldn't move. She couldn't breathe. She couldn't even fully process what was happening, as this giant of a man, this hero who had inspired her through countless difficult days, approached her with a smile that seemed to light up the entire lobby. "Hey there, young lady," Shaq said, his voice even gentler than Maya had imagined. He knelt down on one knee, bringing himself closer to her eye level, though he still towered over her small frame. "I noticed you over here, and something told me I should come say hello. What's your name? Maya opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. She was face to face with Shaquille O'Neal, and all the words she had practiced, all the things she had planned to say, had completely disappeared from her mind. Shaq seemed to understand her speechlessness. It's okay. Take your time. I see you've got something there in your hand. Is that for me? Maya looked down at the magazine photo she was clutching and slowly nodded. With trembling hands, she held it out to him. The photo was wrinkled from being handled so many times, and the edges were worn from years of being her most precious possession. Shaq took the photo gently, as if he understood its significance. He studied it for a moment, recognizing it as one from his Lakers days, and then looked back at Maya with something approaching awe. How long have you been waiting here? He asked softly. All day, Maya finally managed to whisper. Since 7:30 this morning. The impact of her words was immediate. Shaq's expression shifted from friendly interest to deep emotion. He looked around the lobby, taking in the hospital setting, and then back at this small girl who had spent an entire day hoping for just this moment. All day? He repeated. You've been here all day just hoping to see me? Maya nodded, and then found her voice. My mama works here, but she couldn't bring me to meet you. She said it wasn't possible, but I had to try. You're my hero, Mr. O'Neal. You show people like me that we can be anything we want to be. It was then that Shaquille O'Neal did something that would change Maya's life forever. Instead of simply signing her photo and moving on, he sat down right there on the hospital floor, bringing himself as close to her level as possible. Can you tell me why that's important to you? He asked, his voice filled with genuine interest. Maya looked into his eyes and saw something she hadn't expected. He really wanted to know. This wasn't just a celebrity going through the motions of meeting a fan. This was one human being showing sincere interest in another. Because sometimes it's hard to believe dreams can come true when you don't see people who look like you living them, Maya said, her words coming from a place of wisdom beyond her 10 years. But when I see you, I remember that it's possible. That where I come from doesn't have to be where I stay. Shaquille was quiet for a long moment, and Maya could see that her words had affected him deeply. Around them, his entourage waited patiently, understanding that something special was happening. What's your dream, Maya? Shaq asked, somehow knowing her name without her having told him. Maya smiled. I want to help people, like my mama does. Maybe be a doctor or a nurse. But mostly, I want to prove that believing in yourself matters, even when other people think your dreams are too big. Shaquille O'Neal looked at this remarkable little girl sitting across from him on the hospital floor, and he made a decision that went far beyond signing an autograph or taking a quick photo. He was about to give Maya something that would stay with her for the rest of her life, proof that dreams don't just come true for other people. Shaquille O'Neal looked at Maya with an expression of deep respect and admiration. Here was a 10-year-old girl who had skipped school, traveled across the city alone, and waited 8 hours in a hospital lobby, not for fame or attention, but for inspiration and hope. Her courage and determination reminded him of his own childhood dreams and the obstacles he had overcome to achieve them. Maya, he said, still sitting on the hospital floor beside her, I need to ask you something important. Are you here by yourself? Does your mama know where you are? Maya's face flushed with embarrassment and worry. She had known this moment would come, the moment when her bold plan would catch up with her, but she had come too far to lie now. No, sir, she admitted quietly. Mama doesn't know I'm here. She's working upstairs somewhere taking care of sick children. I left her a note, but she's going to be really worried about me. Shaq nodded thoughtfully. I understand why you did what you did, Maya. Sometimes we have to take big risks for the things that matter most to us. But your mama loves you, and she's probably scared right now. We need to make sure she knows. You're safe. Maya's eyes filled with tears. Not from sadness, but from the overwhelming realization that her hero wasn't angry with her for breaking rules. Instead, he understood her motivation and was treating her with the kind of respect usually reserved for adults. Shaq turned to one of the hospital administrators who had been watching the interaction with amazement. Could you help us locate Maya's mother? She's a nursing assistant here. I'd like to meet her and explain what's happened." As the administrator hurried away to find Denise Johnson, Shaq turned back to Maya. "While we wait for your mama, I want to tell you something. What you did today, having the courage to chase your dream, even when it seemed impossible, that's the same spirit that every successful person has inside them. You've already shown me that you have what it takes to achieve anything you set your mind to." Maya wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. "Really? Even though I disobeyed my mama and skipped school?" Shaq smiled. "Well, we'll definitely need to talk about better ways to chase dreams in the future. But Maya, the heart you showed today, the determination, the willingness to take a risk for something you believe in, those are the qualities of a champion. Those are the qualities that will help you become that doctor or nurse you talked about." For the next few minutes, as they waited for Maya's mother to arrive, Shaq asked her about school, her family, and her dreams. He told her stories about his own childhood, about times when he felt like his dreams were too big for his circumstances, and about the people who had believed in him along the way. "The thing about dreams, Maya," he said, "is that they're not just about reaching a destination. They're about who you become while you're chasing them. Today, you became someone who doesn't give up. That matters more than any basketball game I ever played." Then, cutting through the emotional moment like a knife, came a voice that Maya knew better than any other in the world. "Maya Elizabeth Johnson, what in the world?" Denise Johnson's voice stopped mid-sentence as she rounded the corner and saw her daughter sitting on the floor next to the most famous basketball player in the world. Maya scrambled to her feet, suddenly remembering all the trouble she was likely in. "Mama, I can explain." But before Maya could finish her sentence, Shaquille O'Neal stood up and extended his massive hand to Denise. "Mrs. Johnson, I'm Shaq. Your daughter is absolutely remarkable, and I need to tell you what she did today." Denise, still in her nursing scrubs from her shift, looked back and forth between her daughter and the basketball legend, trying to process the surreal scene in front of her. Mr. O'Neal, I'm so sorry if she bothered you. She's been talking about meeting you for weeks, but I never thought—" "Mrs. Johnson," Shaq interrupted gently, "Maya didn't bother me. She inspired me. Do you know that your daughter waited here for 8 hours just for the chance to meet me? Do you know that she traveled across the city by herself because she believed in her dream that strongly?" Denise looked at Maya, seeing her daughter through new eyes. She had been prepared to be angry, to lecture about safety and responsibility and following rules. But listening to Shaquille O'Neal describe Maya's actions in terms of inspiration and courage, she began to understand the magnitude of what her 10-year-old daughter had accomplished. "She could have been hurt," Denise said, though her voice carried less anger than amazement. "Traveling alone, waiting here all day." "You're absolutely right," Shaq agreed. "And Maya and I have already talked about making better choices in the future. But Mrs. Johnson, I want you to know that your daughter didn't just meet me today. She reminded me why I do what I do. She reminded me that sometimes the most important thing we can do is show young people that their dreams matter." Shaq knelt down to Maya's level one more time. "Maya, I want to make you a promise. This isn't the end of our friendship. It's the beginning. I'm going to make sure you have my contact information, and I want you to keep me updated on how school goes, how your dreams develop, and how you're working toward becoming that doctor or nurse." He reached into his jacket and pulled out a business card, writing something on the back before handing it to Maya. "This has my foundation's information on it, and on the back, I've written a message just for you. When things get tough, when people tell you your dreams are too big, I want you to read what I wrote, and remember this day." Maya took the card with trembling hands and read the message written in Shaq's distinctive handwriting. "Maya, dreams aren't too big. People who don't chase them are too small. Keep believing. Your friend, Shaq." But Shaquille O'Neal wasn't finished. He turned to Denise with a serious expression. "Mrs. Johnson, I'd like to do something for Maya. With your permission. My foundation works with students who show exceptional courage and determination. I'd like to set up a college scholarship fund for Maya to help ensure that her dreams of becoming a doctor or nurse can become reality. Denise gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. Mr. O'Neill, that's too much. We couldn't possibly. It's not too much, Shaq said firmly. It's exactly right. Maya showed me today that she's willing to risk everything for her dreams. The least I can do is help make sure those dreams have every chance to come true. Tears began streaming down Maya's face as the full impact of the moment hit her. Not only had she met her hero, but he had seen something special in her, something worth investing in, something worth believing in. Shaq pulled out his phone and took a picture with Maya. But then he did something even more meaningful. He asked one of his staff members to take a photo of him, Maya, and Denise together. A family photo that would forever mark the day Maya learned that dreams really can come true. As the afternoon wound down and Shaq prepared to continue his hospital visits, he gave Maya one final piece of advice. Maya, remember that what happened today isn't magic. It's the result of your courage, your determination, and your refusal to give up on something that mattered to you. Those same qualities will help you achieve every dream you ever have. Maya hugged Shaquille O'Neal, this giant of a man who had just changed her life forever, and whispered, "Thank you for believing in me." "Thank you," Shaq replied, "for reminding me why dreams matter." As Maya and her mother walked out of the hospital together, Maya clutched the business card and the signed photo, but more importantly, she carried with her the knowledge that she had been brave enough to chase her dream, and strong enough to make it come true. The little girl who had started the day, with $11.37 and a worn magazine photo, was going home with a scholarship fund, a new friendship, and the unshakable belief that anything was possible. 3 months later, Maya would receive a letter from Shaquille O'Neal's foundation, officially establishing her college scholarship fund. But she would also receive something even more valuable: regular encouragement from her hero, who had kept his promise to stay in touch. And on the days when Maya faced obstacles, when people told her that her dreams were too big or her goals too ambitious, she would remember the afternoon when she sat on a hospital floor with Shaquille O'Neal and learned that the size of your dreams should always match the size of your courage. Maya Johnson had started that Tuesday morning as a little girl with big dreams. She ended it as a young woman who had proved that dreams don't just come true for other people, they come true for anyone brave enough to chase them.